Alright, if you're watching this video, it means you sat your children down, you talked to them about the importance of self-reliance and that they shouldn't be handed out freebies, then you raided their college fund to help afford a new Bretonnian army. You've opened your box, you put together a few knights, you slogged through a few peasants, and you've probably put your duke together even though you're not confident enough to paint him yet. And you're probably wondering, what's next? Where do I go from here? This video will cover what units you should buy next and give some advice of how you can source them. I give GW a lot of credit for creating a starter box that actually has a lot of good value in it. The problem is, it's a lot like Vegas after that Tiger gave Siegfried and Roy what they had coming. It lacks in practical magic. Magic may be toned down compared to previous editions of Warhammer Fantasy, but it is still an important part of the game, and even if you don't want to go magic heavy, you're going to want a damsel around just to be able to dispel the spells of your opponent. And you have a great degree of flexibility here. Damsels can come on foot, mounted on a horse, or on a monstrous mount, a unicorn. Not only that, but the magic in Old World so far, it seems, is wide open and allows a lot of different strategies. Personally, I like to keep damsels as just buff agents for my knights, but I've seen other people use them with both battle magic and more offensive spells to great success as well. If you were looking to minimize your investment in this and only had to get one, I'd recommend getting a damsel mounted on a horse. A lot of people like to put their damsel on the ground and put them with either their peasant bowmen or their men-at-arms. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but me personally, because I want to get my dispels where it needs and I want to make sure I have my magic where I need it, I want my damsel to be more mobile. I personally think a damsel is at her best in the safe bubble of a lance. As far as mounting it on a unicorn goes, I don't think there's anything wrong with the cost value of it. I do think it's still a good value on a unicorn. I just think if it's oddly inside a lance, it's going to be unwieldy to put inside your movement trays. And so far in playing this new edition, I've never been in a situation where I thought to myself, gee, I wish this damsel was on a unicorn rather than a horse. I just think the points can probably be better spent elsewhere. So I'd really only get the new unicorn model for painting purposes because it is absolutely beautiful. The hard part about this is going to be is right now GW is not really selling much when it comes to damsels. So far they have the new on foot model that was put out, but in the United States it's completely sold out. There was a made to order run of some of the old models both on foot and mounted, but that's over as well. So if you want a damsel and you want it from GW, it's going to have to be from the secondhand market. If you're on a budget, you might try searching eBay or other secondhand markets looking for the old Morgiana Le Fay model. Obviously these prices are just dumb, but this one down here might have legs if you're from the UK. You don't have to pay that horrible shipping. But basically this model comes from an old unicorn that's about the size of a horse. You can put her on a regular size base and run her as a horse, or you can put her on a larger base and then run her as a monstrous mount on a unicorn. That way you can use one model for both and save yourself some money. Alright, so unlike my experiences in middle school, let's say you successfully add some damsels to your group. The next thing I'd recommend adding to your army is a Trebuchet. This will be nice because this is the last remaining kind of gameplay mechanic that you don't have yet for your Bretonnian army. Your games are going to live and die based on how your knights make their charge, but at least by adding the Trebuchet along with the damsels, you'll have some experience of other aspects of the Warhammer game. And by doing this, the person who plays has to account for everything. They can't necessarily bunch up all their army because they know in the background there's a Trebuchet trying to throw large rocks at them. If that doesn't convince you, just check out this video of a real Trebuchet firing. If that doesn't stir something in you, you're probably playing the wrong army. But just like the damsel, sourcing a Bretonnian Trebuchet is kind of a pain in the ass right now. As of this recording, GW has yet to release the resculpted resin version of the Bretonnian Trebuchet, leaving people to either the secondhand market or third-party miniatures. In this situation, I would actually suggest going through something like Highlands Miniatures for their Trebuchet while you wait for the resin one to be released if you really want a Bretonnian Trebuchet. Just for the fact that the old metal model is one of the worst models I have ever put together, it is an absolute pain in the ass. But I still recommend getting a proxy trebuchet as soon as you can, just to add that extra dimension to your Bretonnians. But if you do decide to pay the extra money and get that metal trebuchet, and you start getting frustrated putting together, just remember, it's hella cool when it's over. Moving on. So what does your Bretonnian Army and your favorite sports team have in common? It turns out they both perform better when some jackass is painted up, flying the colors and screaming like an idiot. A Battle Standard Bearer, or BSB, is a pretty important part of every Warhammer army. In fact, back in 6th edition, 7th edition, and 8th edition, it was required for Bretonnia. And while they aren't required in this edition, you're going to want one because they help a lot. It's a free upgrade to your Paladin, and they just look cool and really catch the eye on the tabletop. Like before, you're going to have options to put it on foot, mounted on a horse, or even on a Pegasus. But just like before, if you only want to purchase and paint one, you're probably going to want to get the horse version, unless you plan to make a very expensive hammer out of your Pegasus Knights and you want the flying one. The banner bearer on foot is like a really niche option that might only be useful at, like, say, a 500 point game in an escalation league, or if you're doing just a weird meme army. Bretonnia is all about cavalry, and a BSB on foot just doesn't make a lot of sense. The new BSB is really cool, and it's kind of nice that it comes in a pack of 2, mounted on a horse or on foot. You have to pay for a different kit if you want to do the one on a Pegasus. And if you want to go old school, there are a couple different options for a classic Bretonnia with a Battle Standard Bearer, but of course you're going to have to go to a secondhand market for that, unless GW does another made-to-order run, which we have no idea when that would be or if it even happened. So the last thing I want to suggest for your next steps is either to pick up some Grail Knights or some Questing Knights. I don't really know what's better this edition. Your Grail Knights are going to be stronger on the charge, but can't sustain as well, while your Questing Knights are going to hit softer on the charge, but they're going to grind very well, and they're cheaper. But either way, if you bought the box of Bretonnians, these are probably the 2 units you're most excited about. These are the ones you want to paint the most. Go ahead and pick them up. Have a lot of fun with them. They're very cool, and it's just kind of a nice reward for you for getting this far. There are many other units, of course. There's your mounted squires, there's your knights on foot, there's your Grail pilgrims, and those are all very cool and exciting units. But they all have very niche uses and probably not as necessary to round out your army more than the ones I've already talked about. If you are just starting with the box set, the Damels, the Trebuchet, the BSBs, and the Grail Knights or Questing Knights, these are going to help you more round out your force and give you a solid core to build from there when you decide what directions you want to go. Good luck trying to source this stuff. I know it's hard right now, and thanks for watching.